Today in our Solids Edge training series, we are covering patterns, along curve, circular, and rectangular. My name is Elise Woods. I am one of the marketing specialists here at Swoosh Technologies, and I will be your host for today. Just a little on Swoosh, we're a leading provider of Just a little on Swoosh. We've been a leading provider and partner of Siemens PLM for over 11 years. Our team is dedicated to providing you the best software solutions, technical support, and process-based training to help you design and manufacture better. Our commitment to changing the ways designers and manufacturers learn and leverage PLM tools has been a major focus for us and will continue to be our goal moving forward. Presenting today is application engineer Dylan Mallett. For over 2 years, Dylan has seen the growth and changes of CAD design and understands how the latest technology has benefited many companies' processes. With his hands-on experience in sheet metal fabrication, structural design, surfacing, rendering animation, and 2D drafting to 3D modeling. He's a certified Solid Edge professional and is a sought-after Swoosh training instructor with a great working knowledge of best practices that can help your team deliver better products painlessly. With Solid Edge, there are so many different ways to utilize features within the program tool. There may be a better and faster way to approach how you design. Today, Dylan will be talking about patterns, long curve, circular, and rectangular. When building assemblies, you often need to place standard or commercially supplied parts like nuts or bolts and subassemblies multiple times in a pattern or in a mirror arrangement. With Solid Edge, you can quickly copy parts and subassemblies into a pattern arrangement. And with available part libraries, you can easily find and place commonly used parts that comply with your company's standards. During the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to add these in your question box located in your GoToWebinar panel. Dylan will answer these questions after the presentation is through. Okay, thanks again for joining us, and now I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to Dylan.
All right, thank you very much. All right, folks, so let's kick off. Let's see. All right, so the first thing we're going to go ahead and start with is just a fairly common rectangular style pattern, circular pattern. Then I'll show you some of the things you can do with pattern with curve, and I'll show an assembly. We have pattern with curve and assembly now, which is new to ST9. So I'll actually show how that works. And of course, pattern by table, which does require Excel. And what I'm going to be showing you is very similar to what the tutorials are. And I'll also record those as well for you to be able to download and go through at your own leisure. All right, so what I'm going to do is place one feature on here to use as a pattern. I'm going to place a hole. So first thing I'm going to do is, you notice with this little F3, again, in synchronous, you're locking to a face. The reason I want to lock to a face is I want to use the actual endpoints. So I can just hover over the edges. You'll see they highlight orange. I just hit E on my keyboard, and it automatically places dimensions. So if I want to say I want this to be 1 by 1 to the corner, it automatically places the hole for me and snaps the dimensions to the correct location. All right, so the dimensions get placed, but again, you notice we have two different style or colors of dimensions. The red ones, which are locked, and the blue ones, again, which are driving, which means, in essence, non-locked dimension means I can just take that hold and drag it. But in this scenario, let's go ahead and take it. And I want to make sure I have the correct face, not this outside face, or I don't want it to go symmetric. I want this inside hole to move with that arrow, lock it. And I'm going to do the same thing on this guy. Let's just lock it to the hole. So now I can't just take it and drag it. It'll give me a now. All right, so that's good. So my hole's locked down. So now let's go create a pattern with it. While we're in synchronous, I'm going to show you synchronous and ordered. There's some slight variation. Synchronous far superior in patterning than ordered could be. So we're going to go ahead and use rectangular. You notice it's grayed out. All right, so in synchronous, it is a object select first. So I have to pick what I want to pattern. Then it becomes active. So once I do that, I just tell I want to use a rectangular. Immediately goes into a pattern command. I don't have to do any selections after this, other than tell it how big of a pattern I want to place it. All right, so first I'm just going to go ahead and just arbitrarily drag it at it. All right, so in this orientation, look at the front view, left to right is always X, and the 8-inch is the Y axis. All right, so that's how you can dictate which hole is always looking. So you always know the X axis, by which face you're picking. All right, so we have two options here. We have a fit and a fixed. All right, so what does this mean? Fit is, you notice, we have an overall spacing. So from the very first hole to the very end hole, we have 9.14 or 9.4. Let's make that 10. And in the Y, let's make it 6. Then we have the option to obviously change the quantity of holes, 8 by 5, and I can go ahead and accept it. All right, so right now, this pattern, as in if I did that in ordered, that actual dimension is what's being fixed. Well, in synchronous, I can actually use the geometry afterwards. If I just want to go ahead and place a dimension to that hole, and as I start pushing it and changing the dimension, you notice it's changing the pattern. So I can actually use, I can just say, let's make that 1, and everything's good. If I want to go ahead, obviously make it in both axes, make it 1 by 1 if I wanted to. But again, I didn't lock that, so this is still free to move. So if I just go and grab that hole and start pushing on it, I can actually move that pattern around if I wanted to. Or I can go back into the pattern and just by grabbing that little dot, change it. All right, so that's what you can do with a synchronous fit option. All right, let's go to fixed. All right, so fixed is, it's nothing changed. The only thing that changed is from the overall spacing to individual hole spacing. So if you know what size hole you want as opposed to the overall, you just come in here and say, okay, I want each of these X holes on 1 inch and all the Y holes on 1.5 inch. And there you have it. All right, so very simple concept to use in the synchronous style. Let me move these down. Oops. Spread it out. Go back into the pattern. And to go back into the pattern, notice what I'm doing. If I pick that hole, it brings up this little text where it says pattern 8 by 5. I click the text. It goes back into the whole pattern for me. And let's go ahead and stretch this out a little bit more. All right, so in this example, say oops. That should work. All right, so you notice we have an entire thing of pattern. Maybe in certain scenarios, maybe I just want the outside both holes. All right, so simple enough to do is to create a region. So I'm locked to this space right here, so I'm just going to create a region with a center by rectangle. Now I can go back into the pattern. Again, I can actually pick it from the Pathfinder, pick the text, go back into the command. You notice we have a couple options up here. We have some suppress options. I can suppress via a region, or I can actually turn off holes or turn on holes, or I can actually go in and, oops, didn't mean to edit the profile. There we go. It allows you to actually go back into the profile and actually change that profile after the fact. Or you can actually suppress via instance of individual items. So you can just pick individual items and suppress those as well using the region and or individual items. So go ahead and select that. All right, so now let's get rid of this pattern. Leave the hole, and we're going to switch over to ordered. All right, so what we're going to do here is, you notice patterns automatically highlighted. I don't even have anything selected, so I can select it before or after the command. Let's say I want to do a pattern, pick my item. Let's say I want to do a pattern, and it won't. There we go. So as we go in here, now we have the option for a rectangular or circular. All right, so if I go into rectangular, you pick the location where you want to start from and kind of drag your box out, very much like you do in synchronous, and place it. So here you would actually use dimensions to locate to the geometry. So the sketch itself of that pattern, the dimension will control it within that profile. Unlike synchronous, where you can add the dimension afterwards, here you add it while in profile. And you notice we have three different options here. We have a fit, again, which is overall spacing, fill, and the last one is fixed. So here's the number of holes, here's the spacing of holes. Fixed is a combo of both. It's going to give me an error based on that last dimension that I placed. So if I delete that last dimension, then I use fixed, then I can tell it how many holes I want and what spacing do I want these holes to be set to. All right, so everything, and I go ahead and if I just want to finish it out, everything would be in this particular pattern group. All right, so that's how order does it. Everything is within that sketch profile. Synchronous, it just happens as a pattern feature that's editable all the time. All right, so let's take a look at circular pattern. All right, I'm going to do something very similar. Let's go ahead and place another hole on here. Let's lock to this space and make sure I'm on center. All right, so how synchronous handles the circular patterns, you notice I'm just arbitrarily placing this hole here. The reason why is I don't have to place a center line for my bolt circle. It's going to create that for me. So as I go in, let's again pick my feature that I want to pattern, select circular. All right, so all I have to do is hover over an edge, and it doesn't matter which edge I pick as long as it's the center of the geometry that I want. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that edge right there. It automatically goes into a pattern by the last 12 I use as a default. And if I just go ahead and accept that, there you'll notice the 6.99. Let's move this. Let's move that out a little bit so you can see it a little easier. So this now becomes my bolt circle. So if I just say, let's make this 7, and all change, let's make it something that you can actually see, and that would actually fall off the edge. So 6.5, there you go. So that's automatically created when you do a circular pattern. All right, so you notice we have a full circular pattern. Again, I can go back into that in a given time, click one of the features of the pattern, click pattern, takes me back into the command. And we do have another option here. Again, we have the fit and fill option. In this one, we can also just do a partial pattern. For this example, you just wanted to, again, by using just dragging the geometry around, you can kind of reposition it. And or we have the actual dimension handle. If I want to make this 180, and if I want to make this only 6 holes now, so I only have 6 holes along the pattern, and you click the arrow to change whichever side you want that pattern to go to. Again, you have the suppression options by suppressing individual items and or by suppressing via a region. So that's really a circular pattern. It's very simple, very fast, easy to use. And the ordered style, it's pretty much the exact same way as the rectangular, just the exact same steps, except in that scenario with ordered, you actually have to create the bolt circle. It does not do it for you. So you place your hole with a dimension on center or however you want to place it to actually locate that hole, because it will not do this 6.75 dimension for them. Okay, so that is circular. Get rid of some features here. Hole. Actually, I get rid of it now. Actually, get rid of it. And get rid of the center section. We're going to do a fill pattern now. In synchronous, you notice fill is a separate from the rectangular and circular, and ordered are all in the same command. But we have a lot more options in the fill pattern in synchronous than you do in ordered. All right, so let's create a feature on here. Let me add some dimensions and hide that feature. So I have a feature library, and what I did is I just created an arrow, and I'm just going to go ahead and actually lock that to that face. I didn't put it in that face. Catch it. There you go. So let's go ahead and position this. I'm just going to kind of position it more towards the middle here. Let's hit the front view so we can position that we want accurately. That's what all I need to do. So now we're going to use the fill pattern. All right, so again, window the geometry that you want to use to create the pattern with, fill, pick the face that you want to fill with. Again, it doesn't have to be the entire face. I'll show you this first. All right, so again, by default, it just automatically steps over to a rectangular pattern. You can't really see it in that orientation. So we have the rectangular, and we have a rectangular with stagger. So if I stagger this, then you start getting these offsets. Let's move these a little closer. All right, we have a couple different options for the offsets, linear and complex linear. So you can actually do it by angles and or XY locations. And of course, we have radial. So in here, we just toggle over to radial. And there's a couple different options under radial pattern. The first option we have is the occurrence count. And you notice we have quantity of 6, and of course we have 6 spokes. So that's what you have to think of as how many spokes do you want on here. And the other option is target spacing. So that's more like a bullseye with concentric rings. So let me bump that down. So this will actually start at the center and kind of make concentric rings go around. All right, and you notice the orientation of the actual pattern feature. They're all matching where my base feature is. We do have another option to actually do center orient. What that allows you to do is now you notice all the patterns will follow along. As they rotate around, the patterns will kind of rotate and or move. So if I just want to go ahead and say that looks good right there, go ahead and accept it, and thereby it creates that particular pattern. So what would you do with this one? Maybe you don't want a center pattern or some of the other features. Again, we can, in this scenario, you can't do this in the other steps. You cannot suppress the master occurrence. But in this particular case, we can actually suppress the master occurrence. I can actually pick the dot here. There you go. And now the master occurrence goes. You can get it back anytime you want by picking pattern, and again going into fill pattern to select that command, and then you can obviously unsuppress it and or do different types of patterning. So that's the fill pattern. Very powerful, very fast, much more robust than the ordered style of fill patterns. All right. So the next one we want to take a look at is, let's actually just use this one. Let's create a curve. All right, so we can do pattern by curve because that's another option we have. So along a curve. So let me just create, put a hole on here again. Now let me just turn on my coordinates. I know where the center point is. That'll work. So now let's create a curve. Again, we do have a curve, 2D linear type curve. So if you just wanted to create a random type curve, you could do that, and it would follow along no problem. And or if you're using surfacing and you have 2 curves, then you can actually get you can create a 3D curve by combining a couple different curves. So you can do along a 3D curve, which I'll actually show in the assembly here shortly. But what we also have under surfacing is the new helical curve command. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick center point and just kind of drag this out. All right, so we have several different options here. So this is just a linear spiral. And of course, we also have 3D type curves, which I'll show you again, like I said, in the assembly at the moment. Obviously, middle, left, right hand type. Here's where you define number of turns and or the diameter, end or start diameter. That's all we need to do there. So close. All right, so let's do this. Let's move my hole to the end of my curve. And now, just again, let's get rid of the coordinate. Pick the feature you want to pattern. Go along curve. Pick the curve. Accept it. What you're going to have to do is pick the point where you want to start with. So that's the end of the curve. Then it's going to ask you which direction I want to go ahead and go into the curve. And let's go with 50. And there you have it. So that's the just a quick way to do simple 2D flat type curves. All right, so now let's step over to an assembly. All right, so what I did here is I just created a 3D curve. Let me open this up. So it's just a curve, simple, just a synchronous curve. Nothing special about it. Brought it to an assembly, brought another part in. So this example is you're creating a spiral staircase. All right, so let's go ahead and do pattern along a curve in the assembly. So again, just pattern along curve. First thing to do is click on pick on sorry, I did it as older. I forgot to click back. I didn't have the item selected I want to start with. So now that I have the item started with, so here's my curve. And again, pick the point you want to start with and which direction you want it to go. I want it to go up and accept. All right, so you have some options here. You notice that would not make a very good spiral staircase. Of course, you have the fit and fill options. When I hit next, you'll have some other options to change here. You can use some options following the surface, following the chord. It's going to change. If I do a surface, I do have a surface. I just actually pick the surface of the feature that I'm patterning. Go ahead and accept that. And that pretty much, we have two different options for positions. We have feature position, which basically maintains the orientation of that feature, but puts it kind of outside. Or if I use curve position, which follows the curve, will actually give me the spiral staircase kind of helical look that you would want. All right, again, very simple concept and very fast to use. Something they've also enhanced is the ability to pattern with a table. I've got a few more minutes here. Go ahead and close some of this out. Open up this part here. All right, so in this scenario, we have this little slot. We want to go ahead and make that go along these edges and these curves. All right, so with just some point calculations where you can get some XY locations, you can put that into an Excel spreadsheet. All right, and that would be what they refer to as pattern along the curve. So again, we're going to go in, pick the feature that I want to pattern. So let's window, grab a little pocket and the hole. All right, and we're going to go look for pattern by table. All right. So the first thing it's going to ask you is a coordinate system. So here's my base coordinate system. Then it allows me to go out and go ahead and browse. Let's go grab this. So I have here's my Excel. Open that up. So as you immediately, it starts bringing in the data. So it's building the table right now. So you notice that these features are offset in the part currently. And the reason why is the initial idea is to have the coordinate system based on the center of this flange, but it's not. So we do have an option to actually do as a pattern origin. So I can redefine that. But let's take a look at this field over here real quick. You notice, again, this kind of looks like an Excel table, which it basically is pulling information from. Let's go ahead and do something. So with this, unchecking that link will mean this Excel will get embedded into this file. That way, you can just use that file as just a dummy template and make other items from it. If you leave it linked, if you change that table, well, it's going to change everything linked to it. So it's best to go ahead and uncheck it and have Excel embed itself into this actual file. So there we go, and let's just say, let's use a different location. And we want to use a key point. And just pick any of these center points. So that, again, is going to create a new coordinate system there. And you immediately see some of these geometry starting to populate. And I'll just go ahead and accept that. give it a second while it thinks. And there we have it. Let me go rotate this around so you can see what the features, how they pop into here. So they go around the curve, go to the flat, go around the curve. Throw a dimension on here just to make sure everything's aligned properly. So you can see that currently that's 93 degrees to that flat edge. So that's 3 degrees off. So in this scenario, that's where you would you'd go and just do synchronous moves on all these, rotate them around. But you can also, since again this is being driven by a table, you go right back into that particular pattern. And let it pull itself up. And we can go here and say edit. And again, we're not editing the master table, we're just editing the table that is part of this one. So here's the 4 on the one side, and of course the 4 on the other. So let's just say, so the negative 52, make those, and of course, obviously follow along positive 52. Close it, hit update. So the table updates. And go back to my PMI dimension, and lo and behold, we actually have 90-degree perpendicular to our face. So that is the pattern by table. Lots of uses for it, and again, we have pattern by table in the assembly, and we already have some videos on YouTube of that. What's new with SD9, we have some of those videos out there if you want to watch. And again, I'll record the individual fundamental videos. There's about 3 or 4 on rectangular, circular, and fill pattern. I'll even upload the Excel table file with this model if you want to go ahead and try it out yourself. And
Okay, great. Thanks, Dylan. We hope you enjoyed our session for today. If you were unable to get your question answered today, please know that I will get them all sent to Dylan, and we will reach out to you via phone or email to make sure that you have an answer to your question. Also, we have done this in the previous webinars, and we will be doing this again today. We will be providing you additional tutorials and practice files, which will cover topics Dylan presented in today's webinar. To download, you visit the URL that's listed on your screen right now, and you will see a list of our courses and the files that relate to them. Just add the file to the cart and download, and this is no cost to you. And our next session is coming up January 25th, 2 p.m. Central Time, and we will be covering multi-body design versus top-down assembly. With Solid Edge, you can design the way you want to, whether bottom-up by assembling existing components, or top-down, starting from a conceptual layout, or by designing parts to fit into an existing assembly. A suite of assembly modeling commands and tools lets you use either approach associatively or non-associatively. Dylan Mack will be presenting this webinar and will show us how you can quickly make changes with these shortcuts and tools. Also, please look out for the replay email that will be hitting your inbox in the next few days. And thanks again for coming, and we will see you next session.